Hi, my name is Dr. Billy Abraham, and welcome to the Academic Researchers channel. In this channel, we'll be covering all topics related to getting published, whether you are a PhD student or a beginning researcher. The topic of today's video is impact factor. What is impact factor? Well, before we discuss how it is calculated, it's important to note that the higher the impact factor, the more prestigious and reputable a journal. Now, the impact factor or the maximum impact factor and minimum impact factor really depends on the particular field. There are some fields where the maximum impact factor would be 10, 11, and some it would be 5, and in particular fields even as high as 70 or 75. So it really depends on the field. And we all strive to get published in the most prestigious journals. So how is the impact factor calculated? The impact factor is calculated based on data of the last 2 years. So for example, now in 2021, if a journal has its impact factor published as of today, then it would be calculated based on the number of articles that were cited in the last 2 years, meaning in 2019 and 2020, divided by the total number of citable articles or the total number of articles that were published online in that particular journal. Well, impact factor is the most important criterion on which you should base your decision of where to publish your article. If you publish your article or your study in a journal with no impact factor or very low impact factor, then this might be a waste of time and a waste of an idea which you could have published in a more high-ranking journal. Now, the question that I always get from colleagues and associates is whether it is so important, or why is it so important to get published in a journal that has an impact factor? Well, the reason is that once you have enough publications and you want to be promoted from assistant professor to associate professor, there will be a committee in your university that will evaluate your case. And what they will do is they will look at your publications, and they will want to know how many publications were published in journals with an impact factor. Now, the number of articles that they would want to have published in journals with an impact factor really depends on the institution and the field. In some fields, they would want to look at the total number of publications, and they would expect you to have at least half of them published in journals with an impact factor, while the other half to be published in peer-reviewed journals. So it really depends on the institution and the particular field. And what I would advise you to do is, if you're a starting researcher, if you're an assistant professor, before you publish any article, I would advise you to consult the people who are responsible for promotion in your particular university, and even in an informal manner, discuss this with them and ask them how many articles have to be published in peer-reviewed journals in total, and how many out of those articles published in peer-reviewed journals should have an impact factor. And I would also ask, what is the minimum impact factor? Some institutions say, well, you should publish your articles in journals that have a minimum of impact factor 1, for example, or maybe higher. So these things you should find out in advance so that you don't put in a lot of effort to get an article published, and then you realize that the impact factor is too low for promotional purposes. Now, I have to point out that if a journal has an impact factor of 5, for example, or an impact factor of 1, or an impact factor of 10, it does not necessarily mean that it will be easier to get published. Okay, it still goes through a review process, and you get the comments of at least 2 or maybe 3 or 4 reviewers, and you have to respond, and that also does not guarantee that you'll get published. So you should always strive to get published in the most high-ranking journals. And this is a process that can take a long time. It can take a few months and sometimes even more than a year or two to get published in these high-ranking journals. And the reason is because they usually publish only a few dozen articles a year. So the rejection is very high, the desk rejection is very high. And if we want to improve our chances of publishing in these journals, we need to make sure that we have chosen a topic that is a very hot topic in today's world, something that will interest the editor. And of course, we also have to conduct the research and analyze data according to the most rigorous statistical analysis techniques. So I hope you found this video useful. If you like it, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to get my future videos, and please share this video with your friends. And if you have any ideas or any questions that you would like to ask, please write this down in the comments and I will look through them, respond to you, and I will also make videos depending on the questions that I get from you, my viewers. Thank you once again, and I will see you next week.